Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our Parent and Child Minecraft series. Today, we will talk about how to build a Minecraft server and what is necessary to do so. I'm just copying the files for the server maintenance to our shared drive, so you can see we have now reached a top speed of around about 110 megabytes per second with copying files from one computer to another, and that is about the maximum speed you will get. Here you see it's peaking at 110 megabytes per second, so that is about the maximum speed you will get if you have a gigabyte network adapter. And to do that, you need to be pretty lucky. So, what are we going to do? So, first of all, I have prepared some slides. Let's open Office and start the slides. Our topic is building a Minecraft server, so I'm sure if you found your way to our site, chances are you have already gathered some information. I'm sure you will find some more useful stuff on here. So I've had my first own server after 20 years of working in IT. I managed to get my first own server in 2006, I think. It was a Generation 2 HP DL 360. After long search on the internet, I found one which I paid round about £400 for. And as I said, after more than 20 years of working in IT, that was the first time ever I managed to get my hands on a relatively cheap server. So the ProLiant line was the first one, which was available second-hand for prices which made it competitive to ordinary PCs. And as I had bought my SCO Unix version back in 1989 for the then incredible amount of £2,000. No, it was around about £1,500 for a unlimited workstation version of SCO Unix System 5, and I had maintained it all those years and always updated. The original version was on 4, I think it was 4, 5.25-inch floppy disks. Yeah, you can't imagine how expensive things were. But now, but in 2006, 2007, Linux was already in full swing. But still, I managed to install my SCO Unix version on a ProLiant server. Yeah, it was a generation 2, as I said. And from there, I managed to have second-hand or refurbished servers almost every 2 or 3 years. So in the end, we had a pretty decent home lab with 4 generation 2 to 5, and then a 6 ProLiant servers for setting up a complete Unix environment within our house. So basically all our PCs apart from one were running with then Linux version. I can't remember exactly, but it was the first ever version which we managed to install, which did not crash the PCs all the time. And from there we went back to running Windows PCs now, because with all children in school and unfortunately university also preferring Windows over Linux, the PCs and laptops now all run on Windows. Only our server infrastructure runs on Linux, which we have changed to Ubuntu after we tried a few other versions. SUSE Linux was the one which we had the longest, but now that we only run the server versions, so Ubuntu has proved to be the most stable one. So what is you need to start if you want to build a Minecraft server? I would recommend that you have a broadband connection which is capable of 2 megabytes of upstream, because less makes it very inconvenient for if you want to share it with more than one different player in a different household. You need a place to store the servers. So a real server is, as you can see, round about a meter long, almost a meter wide, and 30 centimeters in height. So you need a place where you can leave it, and it is also noisy, about the noise level of a working washing machine. So it's not something you want to have in your bedroom. I can remember our first generation 2 was making a very noise very close to a starting jet. So compared to that, they are pretty quiet now, but still it is not without noise. The server comes with 2 power units, power supply units, so you need at least 2 free sockets, and for the installation you need a third socket for the monitor as well. So the best thing is you have a extension with at least 3 sockets, which you can connect to a free socket. You will need around about 700 watts, so it is okay with just an ordinary socket. The network cabling, I would recommend you buy Cat5 network cables, and don't be too prudent. Buy it a meter or two longer than you actually need, because you might want to cover your cable, or you don't want to have it running across the floor. So buy the cable that as long as you need it to have it properly placed. And you might want to buy a switch to put it between your router and your server, because you might want to connect other devices later on, or you want to connect your printers or your PC directly to the cable network. So that is, I mean, you can get an 8-port switch for around about 30 quid. So if you're investing in a server, then it might be a good decision to invest into the 30 quid for the switch as well. So I would suggest that when you really want to start to build up a server, set some time aside. It is not done in 5 minutes. So it is basically a project, and you will need a few weeks until it is all done. It's not done in 2 days. If you don't want to spend the amount of money you usually have to spend for a server. So if you want to do it with refurbished hardware and without breaking the bank, then you will need time and commitment. I think 2 weeks or 2 to 4 weeks is a reasonable time scale if you really stick to it. You will also need minimal Ubuntu skills. It is not done without interference, so you need to know how to log into a server. You need to know how to use console commands. I would not recommend to install a web GUI, so you need to do all the input from the terminal. You need perseverance. I can assure you, you will not be done with one go. Even confident and experienced IT people have had more than one go with setting up the server, and you might fail, or you might be unlucky with the server you buy. So probably, or it might happen that not every part is running as it should, but with the second-hand market being as it is now, you will always be able to repair or replace for small money. But you need the confidence to fail. That means never put yourself in a position where you should not fail. It is always possible. It's a hobby. It's nothing You're not competing for an Olympic medal. And realistically, you will have to have 500 pounds surplus, which you want to spend for the whole endeavor. And given the time and the money you're willing to spend, you might also take into account that you might have to spend additional unlimited funds for your divorce in the end. Why is it that we want to use a separate Ubuntu server and not our Windows 10 machine to set up the server, the Minecraft server? Windows is a operating system for an end user PC. Windows is not meant to be running a server. So what Windows is good at is organizing your screen, organizing the files, running the programs. But what Windows is not good at is protecting your PC from all the bad guys in the internet. And your Ubuntu server, your Minecraft server will be fully exposed to the internet because you want to connect to other people over the internet. And you want to let them onto your server. So that means it is not advisable to let other people onto your PC where you have your banking, your personal information, your whatever, your browser history, whatever things you not want to share with the whole wide world. Ubuntu has non-root access as default, and you can build your SSH access also with non-root access, which means even if somebody managed to get on your server from the outside, you still not exposed to. He's still not able to change or alter your settings. The included benefits with Ubuntu are you have the additional option to use your server as a cloud or media or web server. And last not least, but very important as well, you will improve your own and your child's computer skills. So that is what is about the prerequisites and the things you have to think about before you even start. And now we are going into the hardware. I would suggest the minimum you want to have is HP 360 DL generation 7 or better, or an equivalent. There are Dell servers out there which are as good as the HPs, and there are other servers as well. But be reminded that whatever your decision is, don't go for the cheapest option. Do some research. I mean, Dell has the advantage that you are that the drivers are freely available. You can update your Dell server with Dell without any hazard, but opposed to HP, which wants a contract for updating the server. But yeah, as we will see, we will talk about that later. But you also have to keep in mind that you need to have a look at what the core parts for the server are, how big the market is. It doesn't differ much between Dell and HP. It's roughly the same. It's only a few things where Dell is a little bit more expensive than HP, which comes down to HP's unwillingness to open their drivers to the general public, which means prices for HP servers have tanked. For second-hand HP servers have tanked because it is very difficult, or much more difficult, to update your drivers. I would recommend at least 2 4-core CPUs, so the Intel 5240 range would be the minimum you want to run. I would recommend at least 40 gigabyte of RAM. You need a SAS RAID controller so that you can seamlessly expand your hard disks. And it doesn't matter if you choose the 2.5 inch or the 3 inch version of hard disks, because the prices for the 3-inch hard disks are much lower, which means if you buy a 4 terabyte 3-inch hard disks, you will pay as much as if you buy 8 2 terabyte 2.5 inch hard disks. So whatever you choose, it will be the same price per gigabyte. The only convenience is that if you choose the 2.5 inch option, you have more physical drives for the same money, which means you can organize things different if you want to run additional software packages. You also need an old VGA monitor for the setup procedure to connect to the server, because you need to set up the SSH server before you can log in remotely. So for the initial setup you need, and for the BIOS setup anyway, you need an old VGA monitor, or if you are extremely well equipped, you can also attach a graphics card with a HDMI and connect your HDMI cable to your TV. Then you can just run your server on your TV and don't need another additional monitor, but you need a HDMI cable which is long enough to connect your server to your TV. For the machine which you use to play on, so for the PC or laptop, I recommend the minimum would be an i5 generation 6 or better, or the AMD equivalent. 8 GB of RAM, full HD graphics card, and full HD monitor. I mean, given that Minecraft was released in 2011, that means the graphics is not that demanding. You can run it on a 4-year-old graphics card without any problems, and also you can run it on a 4-year-old monitor without any problems. You don't need a graphics card for the server, by the way, so the server is fine with the inbuilt graphics because it will be a headless server anyway. First of all, before you go about, be sure that you really want to play the Minecraft Java edition. So you want to play either from a PC or laptop which runs Windows, or from a PC or laptop which runs Linux. Not from a PlayStation, not from a tablet, because you will have difficulties connecting to the server from a different platform. It is possible, but it is not without going to various hoops, and it makes the play experience a lot more difficult. So you need to be sure that you want to play the Minecraft edition, the Java edition, and you have to acquire the licenses for the Java edition. You don't need it for the server, but you need it for the machine you want to play on. So you need a valid Minecraft version, a valid Minecraft key to play on the server. What else can we say about the Minecraft? Yeah, that's about it. I mean, we have nothing very fancy. We play it on a GX 1030 and 1050, and on a laptop which has, I think, even inbuilt Intel graphics, which is about 4 years old, so there's no problems with that. You need, or you want to acquire the network cabling. It's maybe a server cabinet. I used to use our old bedside cabinet, which was from IKEA, which was exactly 75 centimeters wide. So I could place the server in there. But yeah, they are very cheap server cabinets. You only have to look for the dimensions. The ones which only cost 30 quid are not long enough, so you need to have at least 120 centimeters of length if you want to store a full-length server. You need 2 mains cables, because usually if you buy a refurbished cable server, they come without the cable. And yeah, then start sourcing your server. So at the time of writing, which is today, I've had a look at one of those famous auction sites, and there was one HP DL3 380 Generation 7 with 2 6-core CPU, 64 gigabyte of RAM, two 146 gigabyte hard disks, which you can immediately dump. But the thing is, you have the caddies. So you have two matching caddies where you can put your own hard disks in. Otherwise, you have to buy the caddies, which are around about £2 or £3 each. It has a built-in 410i SIS controller, which is okay. And another, just one word, you can't, or it doesn't work with SSD hard disks. Those controllers don't recognize SSD hard disks. Or even if they recognize them, there's no way that Ubuntu can run the service routines. So don't use SSD hard disk. Use SAS hard disks. And this server was £200, including free delivery, and that is about the cheapest you can get it. You won't get it cheaper. If there's anything which is cheaper, you might to look out for fraud. I think that is basically the cheapest you can get. So the next steps after you have acquired the server, source the necessary SHS disks. 2 to 3 terabyte refurbished should be round about 40 to 50 quid. So depending on what your aims or goals are, you can of course buy more. Source the RAM you want to add. So the example with 64 gigabyte of RAM from the previous page is more than enough. But if you buy something which has less, then you will need something similar to what I've written down here as an example. I bought it today for $22.99, which again is extraordinarily cheap. You want to set aside 35 to 40 quid for 16 gigabyte of RAM. And the third thing you need to source, because if you have made the decision to buy an HP server, is you want to source the service packs, which are of course not here but on the other one. Okay, so you will need some kind of service pack for your server to update all the firmware and drivers to the latest version, because as the server you buy will be a used one, chances are that it has never been updated since it was installed, because usually companies and data centers don't update their servers while they're running. They are running until they run into the ground. They are not treating their servers better than they treat their usual employee. So if you want that, you will need to update the drivers and firmware yourself. So Once you have done that, you're now good to go. The first step is to set up your server BIOS and the SIS disk RAID. Then there you want to download and install Ubuntu 20 server with the LVM option, fixed IP address, SSH server, and your options, whatever you like to run on the server apart from Minecraft. So Samba would give you the opportunity to have something like our data disks here running on a Samba server, or Apache 2 if you want to run a web server on it as well. The next step will be set up SSH for a passwordless login. And once you've done that, you can dump the monitor, because from then on you are able to log into your server from your PC or laptop. Then you need to configure your router for port forwarding and make it as secure as possible. Replace the password with something which is not easy to guess. Make things as secure as possible. Then you can do the same again until it works. Connect to your server from your PC and install the Minecraft server. If you Google Ubuntu 20.04 Minecraft server, then you will find loads of tutorials how to do so, and use the one with the system control variant, because all the other variants which use additional software to manage the Minecraft server are insecure. You need to have the one which is basically run by the Minecraft user, so that whoever manages to get to log into your server for whatever reason is not capable of really doing damage. Yeah, and then once you've done it all in 2 or 3 weeks time, you can play your first world. And I would advise the first try, do it on your own. Don't do it with your child, because I can still remember Liam's disappointment when things didn't work out very well, and we had spent already 2 or 3 hours on the server, and I had to reinstall everything because I didn't do it right in the first place. So set something up, try, and then if you figure out something is amiss or something doesn't work right, then you can delete the whole stuff and install everything again until it actually really works. Yeah, if you like this, please like it and subscribe it. For questions, just send us an email to video@widnosh.net or video@widnosh.com. We will be happy to answer your emails. And yeah, enjoy and good luck with your project. Our next video will be a video about the actual setup. I have set a server aside which we can install, so I will make a short video the next time about how to actually install the Minecraft server. Thank you very much for listening, and please like and subscribe.